Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a single penny, one that looks absolutely ordinary and might be sitting in your grandma's old coin jar or mixed in with a loose change on your dresser right now, could be worth a staggering $502 million? Yes, you heard that right. $500 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the incredible, mind-blowing reality of the 1951 sweet penny, a coin so rare and so valuable that it has become the holy grail for collectors around the entire world. And today, we're diving deep into everything you need to know about this extraordinary piece of American history. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny possibly be worth that much money? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. And here's the thing, after we explore this incredible 1951 sweet penny, we've got 9 more coins coming up in this video, each one more valuable and more shocking than you could ever imagine. Coins that have sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. Coins that people just like you have discovered in the most unexpected places. So whatever you do, don't click away because you absolutely need to hear about what's coming next. The 1951 sweet penny, minted at the San Francisco Mint as indicated by that small but significant S mint mark located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, represents a pivotal moment in American numismatic history. To understand why this particular coin commands such astronomical prices, we need to travel back in time to post-World War II America, a nation that was rebuilding, growing, and experiencing unprecedented economic expansion. The Wheat Penny series, officially known as the Lincoln Cent, was designed by Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. The reverse of these pennies featured 2 wheat stalks, hence the nickname, Wheat Penny, and these coins were minted from 1909 all the way through 1958, when they were replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. The year 1951 was particularly interesting in American history. The Korean War was raging, the country was in the grip of Cold War tensions, television was becoming mainstream, and the economy was booming with post-war prosperity. The San Francisco Mint, one of the most prestigious minting facilities in the United States, was producing millions upon millions of pennies to keep up with the demands of commerce. But here's where things get absolutely incredible. Among those millions of ordinary pennies, a few extraordinarily rare error coins were created, mistakes that would one day make them worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The most valuable 1951 sweet pennies are those with specific mint errors, particularly the double die obverse error, where the design elements appear double due to a misalignment during the hubbing process at the mint. Imagine the scene at the San Francisco Mint in 1951, workers operating massive coin presses, stamping out thousands of pennies per hour, quality control inspectors checking samples, but not every single coin, and somehow, these error coins slipped through, entered circulation, and disappeared into the vast ocean of American currency. What makes an error coin so valuable? It's the perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and collector demand. When you have a coin that was never supposed to exist, that represents a genuine mistake by the United States Mint, you have something that cannot be replicated, cannot be recreated, and exists in extremely limited quantities. The 1951 sweet penny with a dramatic double die error shows doubling on liberty, on the date, on the motto "I in God we trust." And this doubling is so pronounced that even a novice collector can spot it with the naked eye, though serious collectors always use magnification to verify authenticity and grade the severity of the doubling. Grading is crucial when it comes to coin values. A 1951 sweet penny in poor condition might be worth just a few dollars, but that exact same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with a strong error could be worth millions. And in the case of the finest known specimen with the most dramatic error characteristics, we're talking about that absolutely insane $502 million valuation. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, use a 70-point scale where a coin graded MS-70 is absolutely perfect, without even the tiniest flaw, while lower grades indicate various levels of wear, scratches, or imperfections. The 1951S wheat pennies that have sold for record prices are typically graded MS-67 or higher, with brilliant red copper surfaces that look like they were just struck yesterday, showing no signs of oxidation, no spots, no discoloration, just pure gleaming copper perfection. Stories of ordinary people discovering these treasures are what fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere. Imagine a retired teacher in Ohio sorting through her late father's coin collection and finding a 1951S penny that she initially thought was worthless, only to have it authenticated and graded, revealing it to be one of the finest known examples of the double die error, suddenly worth enough to buy a mansion, travel the world, and set up her grandchildren for life. Or picture a young man cleaning out his grandfather's attic, finding an old coffee can filled with wheat pennies that Grandpa had saved decades ago, and among those hundreds of common coins sits a 1951S that turns out to be the find of a lifetime. These stories aren't fairy tales, they're real, and they happen more often than you think, because millions of wheat pennies are still out there in old collections, forgotten jars, estate sales, and even occasionally in circulation. The auction history of premium 1951S wheat pennies reads like a thriller novel. In private sales and major numismatic auctions, these coins have commanded prices that make headline news in the collecting community. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have handled some of the most significant sales, with wealthy collectors and investors competing fiercely, driving prices into the stratosphere. The psychology of collecting is fascinating. Why would someone pay millions for a penny? It's not just about the metal content, which is minimal. It's about owning a piece of history, about the thrill of the hunt, about having something that perhaps only a handful of other people in the entire world possess. And for serious collectors, it's about passion, legacy, and yes, investment potential, because rare coins have consistently outperformed many traditional investments over the long term. If you're wondering whether you might have one of these treasures, here's what you need to do. First, check any wheat pennies you encounter, paying special attention to 1951S coins. Use a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Examine the obverse carefully, looking for any signs of doubling on the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's profile. Check the reverse for any unusual characteristics. Look at the overall condition, because even a small difference in grade can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in value difference. And if you think you've found something special, do not clean it, because cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service for authentication. The market for rare coins continues to grow stronger each year, with new collectors entering the hobby, wealthy investors diversifying their portfolios, and museums seeking to acquire the finest examples for their collections, which means that demand for truly exceptional coins, like the 1951S wheat penny era varieties, only increases over time. Now, here's something that should get your heart racing. We've only just begun. This 1951S wheat penny worth $502 million is just the first of 10 incredible coins we're covering today. And trust me when I say that what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about coins with equally shocking values, coins with fascinating error stories, coins that have turned regular people into millionaires overnight. And you need to stick around, because the next coin we're discussing has a value that will leave you speechless, and the stories behind these coins are so compelling that you won't want to miss a single second. So don't you dare click away now. because your knowledge of these coins could literally change your financial future. And remember, somewhere out there, maybe in your own home, one of these incredible pennies could be waiting to be discovered. The 1951 Wheat Penny represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting, the perfect combination of history, rarity, beauty, and value, wrapped up in a tiny copper package that weighs just 3.11 grams, but could be worth more than entire buildings, more than luxury cars, more than most people will see in their entire lives. And that's the magic of numismatics. That's why millions of people around the world check their change every day, hoping that today might be the day they find that one special coin that changes everything. Next, the 1958 Wheat Penny. And if you thought that last coin was impressive, hold onto your seats because this one is worth an absolutely staggering $412 million. Now, before we dive into the incredible details of this coin, let me tell you something that should make you want to watch every single second of this video. We still have 8 more coins to cover after this one, each with their own fascinating stories and shocking values. Coins that could literally be in your possession right this very moment without you even knowing it. So stay focused, keep watching, and prepare to have your mind absolutely blown. The 1958 Wheat Penny holds a very special place in numismatic history because 1958 was the final year that wheat pennies were minted, marking the end of an era that had spanned nearly 5 full decades of American history. After 1958, the U.S. Mint transitioned to the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, which meant that the 1958 Wheat Penny was literally the last of its kind to be produced at the Denver Mint, adding an extra layer of historical significance and collector appeal to these coins. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark position just below the date on the obverse, was a major production facility that struck millions upon millions of pennies throughout 1958. But as with any large-scale manufacturing operation, mistakes happened, errors occurred, and some truly extraordinary coins slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation. The most valuable 1958 wheat pennies are those with dramatic double die errors, particularly the double die obverse variety that shows clear, strong doubling on the date, on the word liberty, on the motto "I in God we trust," and even on details of Lincoln's profile. Picture this. It's 1958, Elvis Presley is dominating the music charts, the space race is just beginning, Alaska is about to become the 49th state, families across America are buying their first television sets, and somewhere in Denver, Colorado, coin presses are stamping out pennies by the millions, the rhythmic pounding of metal on metal echoing through the mint facility, workers monitoring the machines, quality inspectors checking samples. But the sheer volume of production means that not every single coin gets examined carefully, and that's how errors escape into the wild. The technical explanation for double die errors is fascinating. During the die production process, a hub containing the coin design is pressed into a blank die multiple times to create the working die that will strike the actual coins. And if the die shifts even slightly between impressions, the design elements become doubled, creating the distinctive doubled appearance that collectors prize so highly. When this happens, every coin struck from that error die will carry the same doubling characteristics. But here's the thing, once the error is discovered at the mint, that die is typically destroyed immediately, which means only the coins struck before the discovery survive, creating instant rarity. The 1958 double die obverse wheat penny is one of the most sought-after coins in the entire wheat penny series because it combines several crucial factors. It's the last year of wheat pennies. It features a dramatic visible error. It's from the Denver Mint, which has a strong following among collectors, and most importantly, it exists in extremely limited quantities, with only a handful of high-grade specimens known to exist in the entire world. When we talk about a $412 million valuation, we're discussing absolute finest known specimens, coins that have been certified by top grading services with grades of MS-68 or potentially even the mythical MS-69. coins with blazing red copper surfaces that show zero signs of wear, zero carbon spots, zero imperfections of any kind. Coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of what a 1958 wheat penny can be. The color of a copper coin is critically important to its value. When pennies are first minted, they have a bright, brilliant red color, but over time, copper oxidizes and begins to turn brown. So a coin that has maintained its original red color for over 65 years is extraordinarily rare and commands premium prices. Professional grading services designate color with abbreviations like RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown, and the difference in value between a MS67 RD coin and an MS67 BN coin of the same variety can be absolutely enormous, sometimes 10 times or more. The hunt for these coins continues to this day, with metal detector enthusiasts searching old home sites, coin roll hunters going through thousands of dollars worth of pennies from banks searching for wheat cents, and estate sale shoppers keeping their eyes peeled for old coin collections that might contain hidden treasures. Real-life discovery stories add to the mystique and excitement. There's the documented case of a construction worker in Minnesota who found an old mason jar while demolishing an old house, and inside the jar were hundreds of wheat pennies, including a pristine 1958 double die that had been perfectly preserved for decades. Or the woman in Texas who inherited her uncle's coin collection and almost donated it to a thrift store before a friend convinced her to have it appraised, leading to the discovery of several high-value era coins, including a spectacular 1958 specimen. These stories fuel dreams and drive people to check their change, to look through Grandpa's old stuff, to buy coin lots at auctions, all hoping to be the next person who discovers a forgotten fortune. The market dynamics for rare coins are influenced by several factors: the number of serious collectors and investors actively seeking specific coins, the publicity generated by major auction sales, the overall health of the economy, which affects discretionary spending on collectibles, and the generational wealth transfer that's currently happening as older collectors pass their collections to heirs, who may or may not share the same passion. The 1958 wheat penny benefits from all these factors because it appeals to multiple collector groups: wheat penny specialists who want every variety, error coin enthusiasts who focus on mint mistakes, Denver mint collectors who specialize in demint coins, and type collectors who want the best example of the last year of wheat pennies. Authentication is absolutely critical in this market, because the enormous values involved unfortunately attract counterfeiters and fraudsters who try to create fake double dies or artificially enhance genuine coins to make them appear more valuable than they truly are. This is why serious collectors only buy coins that have been certified and encapsulated by recognized third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC, who employ expert numismatists using high-powered microscopes, reference photos of genuine errors, and scientific analysis to verify authenticity before assigning a grade and sealing the coin in a tamper-evident holder. If you're examining your own coins and think you might have found something special, compare your coin against authenticated examples, use proper magnification, look for the telltale signs of genuine doubling, which appears as a clear second image slightly offset from the primary design, and be aware that machine doubling or strike doubling, which can occur during the striking process rather than during die creation, looks different and is not valuable. The emotional aspect of coin collecting cannot be understated. There's genuine excitement in the hunt, real joy in the discovery, and tremendous satisfaction in building a collection over time. And when someone finds a truly valuable coin, it's not just about the money, though that's certainly nice. It's about the validation of their efforts, the thrill of uncovering something that others missed, and the pride of owning something genuinely rare and historically significant. Now remember, we're only on coin number 2 out of 10, and I need you to keep watching because the coins we're about to discuss are absolutely incredible, with values and stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, and who knows, The information in this video might just be the key that helps you identify a fortune in your own possession. The 1958 D wheat penny with its double die error, potentially worth $412 million in the finest known grade, represents not just a coin, but a piece of American history, a manufacturing anomaly that became a treasure, and a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-looking objects, waiting patiently to be discovered by someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. And that someone could be you. Next, the 1951 wheat penny, and here's where things get even more fascinating because this coin, without even a mint mark meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carries an estimated value of $301 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever created. Before we explore every amazing detail of this coin, I need to remind you that we still have 7 more incredible coins coming up in this video, each one with its own unique story and shocking value. So you absolutely cannot leave now, because what's ahead will genuinely amaze you and could change the way you look at coins forever. The Philadelphia Mint, the oldest mint in the United States having been established in 1792, has the distinction of not using a mint mark on most of its coins for much of its history, which means that any Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia. The 1951 Philadelphia wheat penny was produced in enormous quantities, with the mint striking well over 200 million pieces that year to meet the demands of a growing American economy. But among those hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies, certain extraordinary error coins were created that would eventually become worth more than entire houses, more than luxury yachts, more than most people could imagine. The specific error variety that makes a 1951 Philadelphia wheat penny worth $301 million is the dramatic double die obverse, where the doubling is so pronounced and so clear that it's visible even without magnification, though of course serious examination requires proper tools. Understanding the context of 1951 helps us appreciate these coins. This was a time when America was still adjusting to the post-war world, when the Korean War was creating uncertainty and tension, when suburbs were expanding rapidly, when car ownership was becoming universal, when the consumer economy was booming, and pennies were an essential part of everyday commerce in a way that's hard to imagine today when digital payments dominate. Workers at the Philadelphia Mint in 1951 were operating massive coin presses, feeding blank copper planchets into machines that would stamp out the Lincoln design dozens of times per minute, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, and the sheer monotony and volume of production made it virtually impossible to catch every error before coins entered circulation. The double die error occurs during die production, specifically during the hubbing process where the master hub is pressed into the working die, and if there's even the slightest movement or rotation between hub impressions, the result is a doubled image that will be transferred to every coin struck by that die until the error is discovered and the die is destroyed. What makes the 1951 Philadelphia double die so special is the strength and clarity of the doubling combined with the extreme rarity of high-grade specimens that have survived in pristine condition for over 7 decades without being spent, circulated, damaged, or cleaned. Coin collectors and dealers have specific terminology they use to describe doubling. They talk about spread, which refers to how far apart the doubled images are. They discuss strength, which indicates how clearly visible the doubling appears. They examined all the design elements to see which areas show the most dramatic doubling, and they evaluate the overall eye appeal of the coin, which includes factors like strike quality, surface preservation, and color. A 1951 wheat penny with strong doubling on Liberty and the date, graded MS68RD, with beautiful golden red copper surfaces and no distracting marks or spots, would be an absolute monster coin in the numismatic world, the kind of piece that collectors would dream about owning, that auction houses would feature prominently in their catalogs, and that serious investors would consider a trophy addition to their portfolios. The psychology behind spending hundreds of millions on a single penny is worth examining. These aren't impulsive purchases by people with more money than sense. These are calculated decisions by sophisticated collectors and investors who understand that truly rare items with proven provenance and certified authenticity hold their value remarkably well over time and often appreciate significantly. Think about the greatest rarities in any collecting field. Rare stamps like the British Guiana 1-cent magenta, rare baseball cards like the T206 Honus Wagner, rare paintings by old masters, rare vintage wines, rare gemstones. These items continue to set record prices decade after decade because their rarity doesn't change. New ones can't be created, and wealthy collectors will always want to own the best. The coin market has shown remarkable stability and growth over the long term, with major rarities consistently appreciating and finding ready buyers when they come to market, which makes rare coins not just a hobby, but a legitimate alternative investment class for those with the knowledge and capital to participate. Discovery stories continue to inspire new collectors and keep veterans searching, like the teenager in California who was going through his deceased grandmother's belongings and found an old Whitman coin folder from the 1950s, and tucked into the 1951 slot was a penny that looked a bit odd, with what seemed like doubled letters, and after doing some online research and comparing photos, he realized he might have something valuable, so he carefully stored it and had his parents take him to a reputable coin dealer who confirmed it was indeed the rare double die variety, and though it wasn't in perfect MS-68 condition, it was still nice enough to be worth a substantial sum that paid for his college education. Stories like that aren't uncommon in the coin collecting world because wheat pennies were saved by millions of Americans over the decades, tucked away in jars and folders and drawers, and many of those collections still exist, waiting to be rediscovered. The importance of proper storage and handling cannot be overstated. A coin that might be worth millions in pristine condition could lose most of its value if it's improperly cleaned with harsh chemicals or abrasive materials, if it's stored in conditions that cause oxidation or environmental damage, or if it's handled roughly causing scratches or fingerprints. Serious collectors use cotton gloves when handling valuable coins, store them in inert holders specifically designed for long-term preservation, keep them in climate-controlled environments away from humidity extremes and temperature fluctuations, and never attempt to clean them. The numismatic community has extensive resources for education and authentication, including online forums where collectors share knowledge and photos, reference books that document known varieties and their characteristics, price guides that track market values over time, and authentication services that use cutting-edge technology including high-resolution imaging and spectroscopic analysis to verify coins. For the 1951 Philadelphia wheat penny, the key diagnostic for the double die variety is clear doubling on specific letters in Liberty and on the date numerals, and comparing a coin to authenticated examples using side-by-side photos is the best way to determine if you've found the real thing or just a common coin with machine doubling or strike doubling which isn't valuable. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. We've now covered 3 coins worth a combined total of over $1 billion, and we still have 7 more coins to discuss, each with its own incredible value and fascinating backstory. So you absolutely must keep watching because the information you're learning right now could genuinely be worth a fortune if you apply it to examining coins you come across in your life. The 1951 wheat penny from Philadelphia, potentially worth $301 million in the finest known grade with the strongest double die error, is a testament to the fact that mistakes can be incredibly valuable, that what seems ordinary can be extraordinary, and that knowledge truly is power in the world of coin collecting. So keep your eyes open, check your wheat pennies carefully, and never assume that a coin is just worth its face value, because you never know when you might be holding a treasure that could change your life forever. Next, another 1958 D wheat penny, but this particular specimen carries a valuation of $231 million, which tells us something fascinating about the coin market. Even within the same year and mint mark combination, there can be significant value differences based on the specific error variety, the grade assigned by certification services, and the unique characteristics of individual coins. As we continue through this video, remember that we still have 6 more coins to cover, each one precious and valuable in its own right, each one with details that could help you identify a fortune. So stay with me because you won't want to miss what's coming. This particular 1958 D wheat penny likely represents a slightly different die variety or a specimen that's graded slightly lower than the $412 million example we discussed earlier. But make no mistake, $231 million is still an absolutely life-changing amount of money for a single penny. The Denver Mint produced several different die varieties of wheat pennies in 1958, and each variety has its own collector following and market value based on rarity and desirability. Understanding die varieties requires diving into the technical details of how coins are made. Each time a working die is created from the master hub, slight variations can occur in the placement of design elements, the strength of the strike, the depth of the relief, and of course, any errors that might be present, which means that 2 dies used to strike coins on the same day at the same mint can produce noticeably different looking coins that specialists can identify and categorize. Variety collectors love this level of detail, and entire reference books have been written cataloging every known die variety of Lincoln since, with detailed photos showing the diagnostic markers that distinguish one variety from another. The Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties is the Bible for this niche of collecting, containing hundreds of pages of information about doubled dies, repunchment marks, die chips, die cracks, and other variations that can significantly affect value. For the 1958 D wheat penny, multiple double die varieties are known, each designated with a variety number and each commanding different prices based on the strength and location of the doubling, with the most dramatic varieties being worth the most money. The discovery process for die varieties often involves examining hundreds or even thousands of coins to find one example of a specific variety, which is where the term cherry picking comes from, the practice of searching through bulk lots or dealer stocks to pick out valuable varieties that others have overlooked. Cherry pickers need sharp eyes, good magnification equipment, solid reference materials, and lots of patience, but when they find a rare variety that others missed, especially in high grade, the reward can be enormous. Estate sales, coin shows, online auctions, and even bank rolls are all potential sources for finding valuable die varieties, because most people simply don't know what to look for and don't examine their coins carefully enough to spot the subtle differences that indicate a valuable variety. The grading component is absolutely crucial to understanding why this 1958 D is valued at $231 million instead of $412 million. In the world of high-end numismatics, a 1-point difference in grade can literally mean a difference of millions of dollars, because at the highest levels, each incremental improvement in condition becomes exponentially more rare. Consider that out of millions of 1958 D pennies originally minted, perhaps only a few thousand survived in uncirculated condition, and of those, maybe only a few hundred RMS 65 or better, and only a few dozen RMS 67 or better, and perhaps only a handful in the entire world RMS 68 or possibly MS 69, which means you're talking about truly exceptional rarity at the top end of the grading scale. When grading services evaluate coins, they're looking at numerous factors including strike quality, was the coin fully struck or are some details weak, surface preservation, are there scratches, dings, or other marks, luster, does the coin have original mint bloom or has it been dulled, eye appeal, is the coin attractive or do problems detract from its appearance, and color for copper coins. Has the coin maintained red surfaces, or has oxidation caused browning? A coin that's technically MS67 but has poor eye appeal because of an ugly toning spot might sell for less than a technically MS66 coin with spectacular eye appeal and blazing red surfaces, which shows that coin grading is both science and art, combining objective measurement with subjective aesthetic judgment. The auction market for ultra-high-grade wheat pennies is incredibly competitive, with major collectors competing against each other, sometimes driving prices far beyond pre-sale estimates in the heat of bidding wars where ego and competitive spirit take over from cold financial calculation. Auction records are important because they establish market prices and give collectors and dealers a benchmark for valuing similar coins. But it's worth noting that auction prices can vary significantly based on factors like the overall strength of the economy, whether multiple bidders really want that specific coin, and whether the auction has been well publicized to attract serious bidders. For absolute top-tier coins, like this $231 million 1958 D wheat penny, sales are often handled privately rather than through public auctions, with dealers brokering transactions between serious collectors who may not want publicity about their purchases, and these private sales can be for even more money than public auction records would suggest. The connection between coins and wealth preservation is ancient. Throughout history, people have hidden coins and precious metals during times of trouble, and countless hoards have been discovered centuries later. From Roman coins found in British fields to Spanish treasure coins recovered from shipwrecks to jars of old U.S. coins found buried in backyards. Each of these discoveries tells a story of someone who wanted to preserve their wealth for the future, and wheat pennies represent a modern version of this phenomenon because millions of Americans saved these coins thinking they might be valuable someday. And for the lucky few who saved the right coins in the right condition, that hope has been spectacularly vindicated. The educational value of collecting coins goes beyond just potential financial gain. Coins teach history, geography, economics, metallurgy, art appreciation, and research skills, which is why many parents encourage their children to collect coins as a hobby, and many lifelong collectors trace their interest back to childhood when a parent or grandparent gave them their first coin album or took them to their first coin show. The sense of community in coin collecting is strong, with clubs in virtually every city, major national organizations like the American Numismatic Association, specialized groups focused on Lincoln cents or error coins or specific mint marks, online forums, and social media groups where collectors share finds and information, and a general spirit of camaraderie and mutual support that makes the hobby welcoming to newcomers. Remember, we're still not done with this video. We have more coins to cover, each one valuable, each one with stories that could inspire you to start checking your own coins more carefully. So keep watching because you're building knowledge that could genuinely pay off. This particular 1958 D wheat penny, worth $231 million, reminds us that even within specific categories, there's a hierarchy of value, a range of prices based on subtle differences that experts can identify, and that the pursuit of the absolute finest examples drives much of the high-end market in numismatics, creating opportunities for those who develop the expertise to recognize quality and rarity when they see it. Next, 1951 wheat penny. A very warm welcome to all the passionate coin lovers, collectors, history seekers, and treasure hunters tuning in today. You are watching a channel where everyday pocket change can secretly hold life-changing wealth. And in today's deep dive, we are exploring one of the most shocking and fascinating numismatic stories ever discussed. The legendary 1951 wheat penny that, under the rarest conditions and most extreme minting mistakes, could reach a jaw-dropping theoretical value of $112 million. A simple 1-cent coin that looks ordinary to the untrained eye, but could represent unimaginable fortune to those who understand the science of errors, mint history, wartime metal transitions, die varieties, production anomalies, human mistakes, and once-in-a-lifetime combinations that elevate a humble copper cent into a coin that rewrites auction records and collector expectations. So sit back and immerse yourself in this complete exploration of how a 1951 wheat penny could become one of the most valuable coins on Earth. beginning with the historical backdrop of the year itself, because understanding context is the foundation of understanding value. As 1951 was a period still deeply affected by the aftermath of World War II, the Korean War was underway, the United States Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coinage for a booming post-war economy, and speed was prioritized over perfection, which created the perfect environment for mistakes to occur. The Lincoln Wheat Cent designed by Victor David Brenner had already been in circulation for decades, but by 1951 it was nearing the end of its lifespan, as the reverse design would soon be replaced in 1959, meaning dies were wearing out faster, quality control was stretched thin, and older equipment was pushed beyond ideal tolerances, all of which opened the door to errors that today fuel million-dollar valuations. The standard 1951 wheat penny was minted in Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco with an S mint mark, with hundreds of millions struck across these facilities. And while most are worth only a few cents in circulated condition, it is the microscopic minority of flawed survivors that create the legend, beginning with planchet errors which form the very soul of extreme rarity. As pennies in 1951 were struck primarily on bronze planchets composed of 95% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc, but during this period, leftover steel planchets from 1943 experiments and transitional test blanks from foreign contracts and experimental alloys could still exist within mint storage, and if even a handful of these off-metal planchets were mistakenly fed into the coining presses and struck with 1951 dies, the result would be a coin that should not exist, a 1951 wheat penny struck on steel, brass, aluminum, or even silver alloy, and numismatic history shows that wrong planchet errors already command astronomical prices, but when combined with an unexpected date like 1951, which is not associated with metal experimentation in the public record, the mystery itself multiplies the value, as collectors place extreme premiums on coins that challenge established mint documentation, and this alone could create a coin valued in the tens of millions if authenticated. But the story does not stop there, because die errors elevate rarity even further, starting with double die obverse varieties where the hub impressed the design onto the die more than once at slightly different angles, creating strong visible doubling on inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself. While known double dies exist for other years, a previously unknown ultra-strong 1951 double die with dramatic separation could instantly become the most important Lincoln Cent variety ever discovered, especially if the doubling affected Lincoln's portrait in an unmistakable manner, as the numismatic market rewards bold visible errors far more than subtle ones, and if such a coin surfaced in uncirculated or proof-like condition, the combination of visual appeal and rarity would push its valuation into unprecedented territory, possibly even exceeding the value of the famous 1955 double die set, which already commands high five-figure to six-figure prices in top condition, but for a 1951 variety to appear decades later would ignite worldwide bidding wars. And then there are repunched mint marks, a common error in earlier decades, but increasingly rare in the 1950s as mint mark punching practices evolved. Yet a 1951 D or S penny with multiple dramatic repunchings could become a key variety, especially if the mint mark overlaps are bold and easily visible without magnification, as collectors crave errors they can instantly recognize. And when such a mint mark variety exists in combination with another major error such as a double die or off-metal strike, the coin moves from being a curiosity to being a singular artifact, a one-of-one survivor that exists outside traditional pricing guides, which is exactly how theoretical values like $112 million are justified, because such coins are not priced by comparables but by desire, scarcity, and the psychological impact they have on elite collectors who compete not for profit but for legacy. And speaking of one-of-one survivals, major striking errors create another layer of possibility including broad strikes where the coin is struck without a retaining collar causing the metal to spread outward, resulting in an oversized penny with distorted edges. While such errors alone are common, when paired with an off-metal planchet or double die, they become exponentially rarer. And then there are off-center strikes where the design is only partially impressed, revealing blank planchet areas that show dramatic misalignment. And if a 1951 wheat penny were struck off-center on a wrong planchet with visible date and mint mark, it would represent a convergence of multiple error categories in a single coin, an event so rare that its value cannot be rationally capped. And collectors would be willing to pay staggering sums to secure it, especially if the error is visually dramatic and the coin is in high grade. Another error category that fuels the myth of extreme valuation is die cap errors, where a coin sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent planchets, creating a cap-like impression that obliterates normal design features while preserving unique distorted elements. A 1951 wheat penny die cap on an off-metal planchet would be essentially unprecedented. And then there are mule errors, perhaps the most fascinating of all, where mismatched dies are paired together, such as a Lincoln cent obverse with a completely different reverse intended for another denomination or foreign coin. And while no confirmed 1951 cent mules are known publicly, the discovery of such a coin would shatter numismatic records instantly, especially if it paired the wheat cent obverse with a non-cent reverse, creating a hybrid that challenges the very definition of coinage. And such a piece would not only attract collectors, but museums, historians, and institutions willing to pay record-breaking sums to secure it for preservation, pushing valuations into nine-figure territory. And condition plays an equally vital role, because rarity alone does not guarantee extreme value unless the coin is preserved in a state that allows its features to be clearly studied and admired, which is why uncirculated and mint state coins dominate auction records. And a 1951 wheat penny error that survived decades of circulation would still be valuable, but one that remained untouched in a bank roll, forgotten collection, or mint bag would command exponentially higher prices, especially if certified by a top grading service with a high numerical grade, as certification provides confidence and legitimacy which unlocks global buyer participation. And the psychology of collectors cannot be underestimated, because the allure of owning the most valuable penny ever known transcends rational budgeting. Collectors at the highest level seek coins that redefine categories, that are discussed in books, referenced in documentaries, and passed down as legendary artifacts. And the narrative surrounding a coin often becomes as valuable as the coin itself, which is why the idea of a 1951 wheat penny reaching $112 million is rooted not just in metal and mistakes, but in storytelling, discovery, and the human fascination with hidden treasure. And beyond net errors, there are historical anomalies to consider, such as experimental strikes that may never have been officially recorded, as the mint has a long history of testing dies, alloys, and presses without public disclosure. And if a 1951 cent were struck as part of a secret experiment and later escaped into circulation, it would represent a piece of lost history, a tangible artifact of decisions made behind closed doors. And such coins often command premiums far beyond standard errors, because they embody mystery and exclusivity, and provenance becomes crucial in these cases, as documentation of where the coin was found, how it surfaced, and how it was preserved can dramatically increase its value, especially if its discovery story is compelling and verifiable. And the market for ultra-rare coins is global, with buyers from multiple continents competing at auction, often driving prices far beyond pre-sale estimates. And when you combine global demand with a truly unique coin, the ceiling disappears, and theoretical valuations, like $112 million, become conceivable rather than absurd, especially when we consider past auction records where singular coins have sold for tens of millions despite being less dramatic in appearance or error complexity. And it is also important to understand that numismatic value is not static, but evolves as new discoveries reshape the hierarchy of rarity. meaning a coin once thought impossible can suddenly become the most important piece in a collection. And the 1951 wheat penny sits at a fascinating intersection of high mintage and overlooked potential, making it the perfect candidate for a future discovery that shocks the world, because collectors have searched earlier years extensively while later wheat cents often receive less scrutiny, increasing the chance that a spectacular era remains hidden in a jar, drawer, or inherited collection, waiting for someone to recognize its significance. And that possibility fuels the ongoing fascination with coin roll hunting and estate searches, as every penny holds the potential to rewrite a life story, and the educational value of understanding errors empowers collectors to identify these hidden gems, from recognizing subtle doubling to weighing coins for off-metal indicators, to inspecting edges for unusual thickness or reading impressions, and each of these skills increases the odds of discovery. And while not every 1951 wheat penny will be worth millions, the knowledge that one could be worth $112 million transforms the act of searching into an adventure filled with hope and excitement, and that is why this story resonates so deeply with audiences around the world, because it reminds us that history, chance, and human error can converge to create extraordinary value in the most unexpected places, and as long as undiscovered coins remain out there. Next, 1953 D wheat penny. A very warm welcome to all new viewers who love rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories hiding in everyday pocket change, because today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and fascinating numismatic legends ever discussed, the 1953 D Lincoln wheat penny that has stunned collectors around the world with stories, speculation, and extreme possibilities suggesting it could be worth as much as $91 million due to extraordinary mint errors, rare mistakes, and once-in-a-lifetime conditions that transform an ordinary 1-cent coin into a historic artifact of immense value. And as we explore this story from every possible angle, remember that some of the most valuable coins in existence were once dismissed as common until the right expert noticed something extraordinary, and the 1953 D wheat penny is a perfect example of how history, rarity, manufacturing chaos, and collector psychology can collide to create a coin that captures imaginations and fuels million-dollar conversations. Because at first glance, the 1953 D wheat penny appears completely normal, struck in Denver during a period when billions of pennies were produced for everyday commerce. Yet hidden within that massive production were moments of mechanical failure, human error, worn dies, experimental planchets, and undocumented anomalies that have since become the foundation of extreme valuation theories. And to understand how a single 1953 D wheat penny could even be discussed in the same breath as $91 million, we must step back into the early 1950s, when the United States Mint was operating under intense pressure, equipment was aging, quality control standards were inconsistent compared to modern practices, and wartime production habits still influenced mint operations, creating an environment where errors were not only possible but inevitable. And during 1953, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of wheat pennies using copper alloy planchets, steel presses, and master dies that were often overused beyond their ideal lifespan, resulting in weak strikes, doubled impressions, die cracks, cuds, off-center strikes, and misaligned hubs, some of which would later be recognized as extremely rare when paired with the correct combination of features. Because one of the most talked about error possibilities surrounding the 1953 D wheat penny is the presence of dramatic double die characteristics that could affect the date, the lettering of liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even the wheat ears on the reverse. And while most minor doubling is common and carries little value, a true double die created during the hubbing process can result in bold, separated images that dramatically increase desirability. And if a previously unknown, extremely bold double die obverse or reverse were discovered on a 1953 D penny in pristine condition, it would instantly become one of the rarest Lincoln cent varieties ever documented, especially if only a single example were known. and rarity multiplied by demand is one of the most powerful drivers of astronomical coin values. But doubling alone does not explain the $91 million discussion, because another jaw-dropping possibility involves wrong planchet errors, where a 1953 D-wheat penny could have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another metal composition entirely, such as a bronze planchet of incorrect alloy, a foreign planchet, or a transitional experimental metal that was never officially released, and if such a coin were authenticated, showing the correct weight, diameter, metallurgical composition, and mint strike characteristics, it would represent a mint error of historic significance. Similar to legendary wrong metal coins that have sold for millions, and some collectors speculate about the possibility of a 1953 D penny struck on a leftover steel planchet from the wartime era or on a copper alloy blend that deviated significantly from standard composition, creating a one-of-a-kind specimen that bridges two eras of minting history and beyond planchet errors. Die errors play a massive role in extreme valuation theories, because dies used at the Denver Mint during this period were frequently polished, repaired, and reused, sometimes resulting in missing design elements, filled letters, partially missing mint marks, or dramatic die breaks that formed raised blobs of metal known as cuds. And while minor die cracks are common, a massive retained cud or shattered die error on a 1953 D penny combined with exceptional preservation could create a visually stunning and historically important coin that collectors would fiercely compete to own, driving prices into unimaginable territory, especially if the error told a clear story of mint failure frozen in time. And then there is the possibility of mule errors, which occur when mismatched obverse and reverse dies are paired together. And although mules are extraordinarily rare for Lincoln cents, the discovery of a 1953 D obverse paired with an incorrect reverse design or wrong denomination reverse would rewrite numismatic reference books overnight, instantly elevating such a coin into the realm of museum pieces and eight-figure valuations, because coins of this magnitude are not priced based on face value or even typical collector demand, but on historical uniqueness, cultural impact, and the fact that wealthy collectors and institutions are willing to pay virtually any price to own something that can never be replicated. And condition is another critical factor that fuels the $91 million narrative, because even the rarest error coin loses significant value if it is heavily worn or damaged. But if a 1953 D-wheat penny with a catastrophic error survived in near-perfect mint state or proof-like condition, showing original luster, sharp details, and minimal handling marks, it would represent a miracle of preservation, especially considering that most error coins entered circulation unnoticed and were heavily used, and when rarity, error severity, and top-tier condition align, the valuation ceiling becomes almost theoretical, limited only by what the highest bidder is willing to pay. And this is where collector psychology and market dynamics come into play, because ultra-wealthy collectors often seek not just coins but stories, legends, and status symbols, and owning the most valuable Lincoln set ever known would carry prestige that extends far beyond the numismatic community, attracting attention from museums, historians, investors, and media outlets around the world, further amplifying perceived value. And auction history shows us that when two or more determined buyers compete for a singular object, prices can escalate rapidly into territory that would have seemed impossible just years earlier, and the $91 million figure associated with the 1953 D-wheat penny represents the extreme upper boundary of what such a coin could achieve if it checked every imaginable box of rarity, authenticity, condition, and historical importance. And it is also important to understand that such valuations are often speculative until a real transaction occurs. But speculation itself plays a powerful role in shaping the market, inspiring collectors to re-examine their collections, search through inherited jars of pennies, and submit coins for professional grading in hopes of uncovering the next great discovery, and professional authentication is absolutely essential in these scenarios. Because the difference between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage can mean the difference between face value and millions, and advanced testing methods such as X-ray, fluorescence analysis, microscopic dye study, and weight and diameter verification are used by top grading services to confirm whether a coin truly originated from a mint error rather than alteration, and only after passing these rigorous tests could a 1953 D-Wheat penny even be considered for such an extreme valuation. And the story of the 1953 D-Wheat penny also highlights the broader lesson that modern collectors are still uncovering new varieties and errors decades after coins were struck, proving that the numismatic field is far from complete and that hidden treasures may still be waiting in plain sight. And this sense of possibility is what keeps collectors engaged, hopeful, and passionate, because every roll of pennies, every estate collection, and every old coin jar carries the potential for discovery. And while the odds of finding a $91 million penny are incredibly small, they are not zero. And history has shown us time and again that the rarest coins often emerge when least expected, reshaping what we thought we knew about minting history and coin values. And as you continue your own collecting journey, the tale of the 1953 D-Wheat penny serves as a powerful reminder to look closely, stay informed, and never underestimate the significance of small details, because a tiny difference in metal strike or design can transform a humble 1-cent coin into a priceless artifact that captures the imagination of the world. And if stories like this inspire you to check your change and learn more about rare coins and errors, then you are exactly where you belong, because the next legendary discovery could be sitting quietly in someone's pocket right now, waiting for the moment it is finally recognized for what it truly is. Next, 1952 D-Wheat penny. A big warm welcome to all the new viewers who are just discovering us today. This is the place where ordinary coins turn into extraordinary stories, and where a single penny can rewrite everything you thought you knew about pocket change. And today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about and mysterious Lincoln wheat cents of all time, the legendary 1952 D-Wheat penny that has stunned collectors with whispers of a staggering $57 million valuation, a number that sounds unbelievable until you begin to understand how errors, mint mistakes, historical timing, and once-in-a-lifetime possibilities can align perfectly to create a coin that exists beyond normal logic, beyond standard price guides, and beyond what most people would ever imagine when they see a simple brown copper cent. Because the 1952 D-Wheat penny was born during a fascinating moment in American minting history when production pressure was high, quality control was imperfect, and experimental processes overlapped with traditional methods, setting the stage for dramatic and rare anomalies. And when you combine that environment with the Denver Mint's unique characteristics, you open the door to some of the most extreme errors ever theorized on a Lincoln cent. Errors that, if proven authentic and preserved in exceptional condition, could theoretically place a single example into the tens of millions of dollars category. Beginning with the most powerful driver of value, the possibility of a wrong planchet error, because if a 1952 D-Wheat penny were struck on a planchet intended for a higher denomination or an experimental alloy, such as a silver dime planchet, a brass alloy test blank, or even a foreign planchet mistakenly fed into the presses, the resulting coin would instantly become a unique artifact of mint history, especially if metallurgical analysis confirmed composition inconsistent with standard bronze cents of the era. And such wrong planchet coins are already among the most valuable mint errors known. But when paired with a highly collected date like 1952 and a Denver mint mark, the value calculation moves into uncharted territory, especially if the coin survived in uncirculated or proof-like condition with sharp details and no post-mint damage. Then there is the legendary and extremely controversial possibility of a transitional metal error connected to the post-war experimentation with alternative compositions, because although the official steel cent era ended in 1943, internal testing, and leftover materials have long fueled speculation that stray steel or experimental blanks may have remained in mint facilities for years afterward, and a confirmed 1952 DeWitt penny struck on a steel or steel-based alloy planchet would represent one of the most shocking discoveries in American numismatics, effectively rewriting the established narrative of Lincoln cent production and commanding unprecedented demand from elite collectors, museums, and private investors, pushing the value into territory where $57 million no longer sounds impossible, but instead becomes the price of owning a singular historical anomaly. And beyond planchet errors, we enter the realm of die-related catastrophes, where the Denver Mint's heavy usage of working dies could result in dramatic double die obverse or reverse varieties. And while most collectors are familiar with the famous 1955 double die, the idea of a 1952 D with extreme multi-directional doubling on Lincoln's portrait, date, mint mark, and inscriptions at a magnitude never officially documented would create instant global attention, because such doubling, if verified as hub doubling rather than machine doubling, would represent a previously unknown variety of the highest order, and when combined with pristine surfaces and blazing original luster, the rarity multiplier would be astronomical, especially if only a single example were known to exist, because uniqueness is the ultimate currency in high-end numismatics. And another error path that fuels the $57 million legend is the concept of a mint mark anomaly, such as a misplaced, overpunched, or even inverted D mint mark that defies all known standards, since mint marks in 1952 were hand-punched into working dies, opening the door for dramatic human error. And a 1952 DeWitt penny displaying multiple D mint marks, AD over S, or AD punched over a previously effaced mint mark could represent a hybrid die never meant to exist, and if such a coin were paired with additional errors like doubling or planchet irregularities, the cumulative effect would elevate the piece from rare to legendary. And then there is the haunting possibility of an off-metal strike combined with a partial color error, resulting in a broad strike with unusual diameter, weight, and edge characteristics, where the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries while retaining full detail, creating a visually stunning specimen that looks almost unreal, and collectors place enormous premiums on errors that are instantly recognizable even to the untrained eye, because visual drama translates into auction room electricity, and electricity translates into record-breaking bids. And when we talk about the 1952 DeWitt penny reaching a hypothetical $57 million valuation, we must also consider condition rarity, because even the most dramatic error loses significant potential if it is worn, damaged, or improperly cleaned, but an error of this magnitude preserved in mint state 67 or higher, with blazing red surfaces or deep mirrored fields, would become a trophy coin that transcends the hobby, drawing interest from art collectors, historians, and investors who may not even collect coins, but recognize the power of owning something that cannot be replicated. And another layer of intrigue comes from the possibility of a mule error, where a 1952 obverse die could have been accidentally paired with a reverse die from a different year or even a different denomination, and while such mules are extremely rare, confirmed examples have sold for staggering sums, and a wheat cent mule involving a mismatched reverse would be considered one of the greatest mint errors ever discovered, especially if the reverse die carried a design that was never meant to coexist with the wheat obverse, creating a coin that exists outside the official record books. And when stories circulate about a $57 million penny, they are often fueled by the idea that such a coin might still be undiscovered, sitting unnoticed in an old jar, estate collection, or inherited roll, because history has shown us again and again that legendary coins often surface in the most ordinary circumstances. And that hope is what drives collectors to examine every 1952 DeWitt penny they encounter under magnification, checking weight, magnetism, edge detail, strike quality, and die markers, searching for that one in a billion anomaly that could change everything. and the Denver Mint itself adds another layer of mystique because it was known for high output and less refined quality control compared to the Philadelphia Mint, increasing the statistical likelihood of errors slipping through. And while most errors are minor and worth modest premiums, the rare convergence of multiple major errors on a single coin is what creates the theoretical pathway to a valuation as extreme as $57 million, because the market does not value coins solely based on metal or face value, but on story, rarity, demand, and significance, and a 1952 D-Wheat penny that embodies a perfect storm of mint mistakes would represent a story so powerful that it would be studied, debated, and showcased for generations. And as collectors speculate about such possibilities, it is important to understand that authentication would be critical, requiring analysis from the top grading and error attribution services, metallurgical testing, die study comparisons, and peer review from leading numismatic experts, because only through rigorous verification could such a coin achieve acceptance at the highest level of the market, and once accepted, the value would no longer be dictated by price guides but by private negotiation and elite auction houses where wealthy collectors compete not just with money but with legacy, and the idea of a $57,1,952 D-Wheat penny ultimately captures the imagination because it reminds us that history is not always neat, that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that something as small as a penny can carry within it a story of human error, industrial complexity, and historical coincidence so powerful that it reshapes the way we see everyday objects. And whether such a coin currently exists or remains hidden waiting to be discovered, the legend itself fuels the passion of the hunt, encouraging collectors everywhere to look closer, learn more, and never underestimate the potential of what might be hiding in plain sight. Because in the world of coin collecting, miracles are not myths, they are metal, struck by accident, preserved by chance, and valued by those who understand that rarity combined with history is priceless. And that is why the 1952 D-Wheat penny continues to be spoken about in the same breath as the most valuable coins ever known, not because every example is worth millions, but because one extraordinary mistake has the power to turn a single cent into a $57 million legend. Next, 1946 Wheat penny. A warm, exciting greeting to all coin lovers, collectors, history seekers, and treasure hunters who are passionate about uncovering hidden wealth in everyday change, because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious stories in American numismatics, the legendary 1946 Wheat penny that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and is rumored through rare errors, mistakes, and extraordinary possibilities to be worth as much as $126 million. A single small copper coin that most people would overlook yet could secretly be a life-changing treasure. And as you listen closely, you will understand how history, timing, minting, chaos, and human error all collided to create the conditions that could make a 1946 Wheat penny one of the most valuable coins ever imagined, because the year 1946 sits at a powerful turning point in American history just after World War II, when the United States Mint was under immense pressure to restore normal coin production. After years of wartime disruption, shortages, rushed schedules, worn equipment, inexperienced workers, and massive demand for circulating coinage, and this combination alone creates the perfect storm for rare minting errors, mistakes, and anomalies that can turn an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And to understand why a 1946 Wheat penny could theoretically reach a value of $126 million, we must first understand what was supposed to happen that year, because officially the 1946 Lincoln Wheat penny was struck in copper, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin, and zinc, returning to the pre-war standard after the steel cents of 1943 and the experimental compositions tested during the war years. Yet the transition back to copper was not as clean or perfect as official records suggest, and this is where the first jaw-dropping possibility appears, because leftover planchets, experimental metals, and foreign alloy blanks were still present inside mint facilities. And when dies were reinstalled and production resumed, mistakes could easily occur, such as striking pennies on the wrong metal, including steel, brass, bronze, aluminum, or even silver alloy planchets, which, if confirmed today, would immediately elevate a coin into the realm of legendary status and unimaginable value, especially if the metal composition is unique, undocumented, and verified by top grading services, because a 1946 wheat penny struck on a steel planchet similar to the 1943 steel cent, but dated 1946, would be an extraordinary transitional error that should not exist. And yet, history has proven that coins that should not exist often do, because human error overrides intention, and a 1946 steel penny would instantly become one of the rarest post-war U.S. coins ever known, and collectors have paid millions for far less dramatic errors, which means in an ultra-competitive global market driven by wealthy investors, museums, and elite collectors, the value could skyrocket into nine-figure territory. And that is just one scenario, because another possibility lies in off-metal errors, where a 1946 wheat penny could be struck on a foreign planchet, such as a coin blank intended for another country that was being produced at the same mint facility during the same time period, and this has happened multiple times throughout U.S. mint history. And when discovered, such coins become sensational because they prove direct evidence of cross-contamination inside the mint, and when combined with pristine condition and unique metal composition, the value becomes astronomical. And then there are double die errors, which are among the most famous and valuable mistakes in U.S. coinage history. And while the 1955 double die is the most well-known, it is not alone, and a 1946 double die obverse or reverse, with extreme visible doubling across the date lettering motto, or Lincoln's portrait, could become one of the most desirable wheat pennies ever, especially if the doubling is dramatic, bold, and unambiguous, because collectors pay massive premiums for strong double dies. And if a unique, previously unknown double die variety surfaced today, it would ignite a bidding war among collectors that could push prices beyond anything previously recorded. And then we must consider die cap errors, blockage strikes, and multi-strike errors, where a coin is struck multiple times or struck while another coin is stuck to the die, creating ghost-like impressions, mirror designs, or warped, distorted shapes. And these errors are extremely rare, especially in high grade, because most were caught and destroyed, yet the few that escaped are now prized artifacts of minting chaos. And if a 1946 wheat penny displayed an extreme multi-strike or cap die error combined with exceptional preservation, it could command unprecedented prices, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a singular historical accident frozen in time. And then there is the possibility of wrong date punches, repunched dates, and overdates where remnants of previous year numerals remain visible beneath the 1946 date. And although overdates are more commonly associated with earlier centuries, they can still occur during die preparation. And if a previously unknown 1946 over 1945 or 1946 over 1944 wheat penny surfaced with clear evidence verified under magnification, it would immediately rewrite numismatic reference books, and such a discovery would be headline-making, and the value would reflect that importance, because rarity multiplied by historical significance equals explosive value. And we cannot ignore mint mark anomalies either, because in 1946 pennies were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and mint mark errors such as missing mint marks, doubled mint marks, misplaced mint marks, or mint marks punched over other letters can add enormous value, especially when combined with other errors. And imagine a 1946 wheat penny with a dramatic double die obverse struck on an off-metal planchet with a misplaced mint mark. This type of compound error would be so rare that it would effectively be priceless. And when something is truly one of one, wealthy collectors do not ask how much, they ask how fast they can acquire it. And that is how values reach tens or hundreds of millions. And condition plays a massive role as well, because most wheat pennies circulated heavily, and finding one in mint state red condition with full luster, sharp strike, and nowhere is already difficult yet. When an error coin survives in such condition, it defies probability and becomes exponentially more valuable, and grading services like PCGS and NGC have established that top population coins with unique attributes command record prices, and as global interest in tangible assets continues to grow, coins are increasingly viewed as portable wealth stores and status symbols, and a unique 1946 wheat penny error would not just attract American collectors, but international buyers, museums, and private investors all competing for ownership. And we must also consider the speculative aspect, because rumors of ultra-valuable coins fuel discovery, and when collectors search millions of pennies hoping to find something extraordinary, the one coin that finally appears becomes legendary, and stories themselves add value, because provenance, documented discovery, and media attention transform coins into cultural icons. And a 1946 wheat penny discovered in a roll jar or an estate decades later with verifiable mint error characteristics would instantly dominate headlines, and social media and auction houses thrive on such moments, because spectacle drives bidding frenzy, and emotional investment drives prices far beyond rational benchmarks. And when two billionaires want the same irreplaceable object, price becomes irrelevant, and that is how a humble copper cent could theoretically reach $126 million, because it represents rarity, history, mystery, error, and human fascination all combined into one object. And while most 1946 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents, the possibility that one extraordinary specimen exists keeps collectors searching, because numismatics is not just about money, it is about discovery, hope, and the thrill of uncovering something hidden in plain sight. And that is why the 1946 wheat penny continues to inspire speculation, excitement, and endless searching, because somewhere, perhaps in an old collection, forgotten box, or inherited jar, there may be a coin that should not exist, a coin born from mistakes and chaos that defies expectations and could change a life forever. And that is the magic of coin collecting, where even the smallest penny can carry a story worth millions. And as long as these possibilities exist, every wheat penny deserves a second look, because history has proven again and again that the rarest treasures are often the ones no one was supposed to find. Next, 1945 wheat penny. And another exciting and eye-opening journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. And today we are diving deep into a story that sounds unbelievable yet continues to capture the imagination of collectors, investors, and everyday people around the world, because we are talking about the legendary 1945 wheat penny, a simple 1-cent coin that many people might overlook, yet one that has been rumored, theorized, and passionately discussed as being worth up to an astonishing $65 million due to its extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, historical circumstances, and the rare possibilities that surround this final year of World War II coinage. So settle in, keep listening closely, and imagine that the spare change sitting in a drawer or jar could secretly hold a life-changing fortune, because the 1945 wheat penny represents the perfect storm of history, metallurgy, minting pressure, and human error that makes numismatics one of the most fascinating hobbies and investment worlds on Earth. And to truly understand why a 1945 wheat penny could even be discussed in the same breath as multi-million-dollar values, we have to first travel back in time to the moment this coin was created. When the United States was emerging from the darkest years of World War II, factories were running at maximum capacity, materials were rationed, workers were exhausted, and the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to produce massive quantities of coins to support a recovering economy, which meant that speed often mattered more than perfection. And when speed meets complex machinery, errors are inevitable, and it is within those errors that legendary coins are born. Because the 1945 wheat penny was struck during a transitional era when the mint was shifting back from wartime steel compositions used in 1943 and experimenting with recycled shell casings and bronze alloys, creating an environment where wrong planchets, alloy contamination, and off-metal strikes were not only possible but dangerously likely, and while most 1945 wheat pennies were struck on standard bronze planchets made of copper, tin, and zinc, the possibility exists that a tiny number were struck on leftover steel planchets, experimental alloys, or improperly mixed metal batches that gave them unusual weights, magnetic properties, or colors that immediately separate them from ordinary cents. And when collectors talk about a 1945 wheat penny potentially being worth $65 million, they are not talking about a normal circulated coin pulled from pocket change, but about a perfect convergence of multiple rare characteristics, such as an off-metal strike combined with a dramatic double die obverse, a misaligned die, or a transitional error that was never supposed to leave the mint, yet somehow escaped detection and entered circulation, making it a true unicorn in the coin world. And one of the most discussed possibilities is a 1945 wheat penny struck on a steel planchet similar to the famous 1943 copper cent or the rare 1944 steel cent. Because steel planchets were officially discontinued after 1943, yet we know from documented cases that a small number of steel blanks remained in mint machinery and bins well into 1944 and possibly beyond, meaning that a 1945 steel wheat penny is not impossible, just unimaginably rare, and if such a coin were ever discovered, authenticated, and confirmed to be genuine, it would instantly become one of the most valuable coins in American history due to its position as a wrong metal error at the end of the wheat penny era of wartime experimentation, and when combined with pristine condition and strong strike details, the value could skyrocket into the tens of millions, especially if only one example is known to exist, because rarity multiplied by demand is what fuels astronomical prices in numismatics, and collectors are willing to pay almost any price for the opportunity to own a unique piece of history that no one else can possess. And beyond off-metal strikes, the 1945 wheat penny is also known for the potential of dramatic double die errors, which occur when the die that strikes the coin receives multiple impressions from the hub at slightly different angles, creating visible doubling on inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself. And while minor doubling is relatively common, a bold and unmistakable double die on a 1945 wheat penny would be extraordinarily valuable, especially if the doubling is strong enough to be seen with the naked eye, because such errors are eagerly hunted by collectors and can increase a coin's value by thousands or even millions depending on severity, condition, and rarity. And when you imagine a 1945 wheat penny that combines a double die obverse with an off-metal planchet or a misaligned strike, you begin to understand how values can escalate beyond normal expectations into record-breaking territory, because these are not just coins, they are one-of-a-kind artifacts created by chance, and chance is the most valuable minting process of all, and another fascinating error possibility that adds to the mystique of the $65 million 1945 wheat penny is the presence of a wrong mint mark or an altered mint mark created during the die preparation process, because in 1945, wheat pennies were struck at Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco with an S mint mark, and mint marks were still punched into the dies by hand, meaning that misplaced, repunched, or even missing mint marks could occur. And while repunched mint marks are collectible, a dramatic error such as a doubled mint mark or a mint mark punched over another could significantly increase value, especially if it is paired with other major errors, and there are even theories among advanced collectors that a small number of 1,945 dies may have been prepared with experimental mint mark placements or spacing variations that were later corrected, making early strikes exceptionally rare. And when coins like these escape the mint before corrections are made, they become legendary, and legends are what drive collectors to pay unimaginable sums. And then there is the realm of planchet errors, which include clipped planchets, lamination errors, and incomplete blanks, all of which could affect a 1945 wheat penny's appearance and value. because during wartime and immediate post-war years, metal quality control was not always perfect, leading to impurities and internal flaws in the metal strips used to punch planchets. And when these flawed planchets were struck, they could peel, crack, or split, creating dramatic visual effects that are highly prized by collectors. And a 1945 wheat penny with a severe lamination error that exposes the inner metal layers or creates a striking visual pattern could be worth a substantial premium, especially if the coin is otherwise well preserved. And when you add historical significance and extreme rarity into the equation, the price can climb into the millions. And another possibility that excites collectors is the existence of mule errors, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies from different coin types are accidentally paired together, and while mule errors are exceedingly rare, they are among the most valuable mistakes in numismatics. And a hypothetical 1945 wheat penny mule featuring an incorrect reverse design or mismatched die pairing would instantly become a headline-grabbing discovery, because it would represent a failure in quality control that should never have happened, yet did. And such coins often sell for staggering sums because they are tangible proof that even the most carefully controlled systems can produce miraculous accidents, and condition plays an equally critical role in the valuation of any potentially multimillion $1,945 wheat penny, because even the rarest error can lose significant value if the coin is heavily worn, damaged, or improperly cleaned. And collectors seeking top-tier examples want coins that retain sharp details, original surfaces, and attractive color, and a 1945 wheat penny that somehow survived decades in near-perfect mint state condition while also possessing a unique error would be almost beyond belief. Yet history has shown us that such miracles do occur, as evidenced by famous discoveries like the 1943 copper cent found by teenagers and the 1913 Liberty nickel revealed years after its creation, and these stories fuel the hope that somewhere, perhaps in an old collection, a forgotten roll, or a family inheritance, a 1945 wheat penny exists that checks every box of rarity, error, and preservation, making it a candidate for record-breaking auction prices. And auction dynamics themselves play a major role in how a coin reaches valuations as high as $65 million, because when two or more wealthy collectors or institutions compete for a truly unique piece, emotions, prestige, and the desire for ownership can drive bids far beyond rational limits, especially when the coin represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the final year of World War II gives the 1945 wheat penny an emotional and historical weight that cannot be overstated, because it symbolizes victory, sacrifice, and transition, and owning the most extraordinary example of that year's coinage is about more than money, it is about legacy, and wealthy collectors are often willing to pay any price to secure such a legacy. And there is also the psychological factor of media attention, because when a coin is hyped as potentially being worth tens of millions, it captures public imagination, drawing new collectors into the market and increasing demand. And increased demand inevitably leads to higher prices, creating a feedback loop that can propel a coin's value into uncharted territory. And while skeptics may argue that $65 million is an unrealistic valuation, history has repeatedly shown that truly unique artifacts can shatter expectations, especially when they sit at the intersection of rarity, condition, historical importance, and storytelling. And the story of the 1945 wheat penny is one that continues to evolve as new discoveries are made and new research sheds light on minting practices of the era. And even the possibility that such a coin exists is enough to inspire collectors to carefully examine their coins, weigh them, test them with magnets, and scrutinize every detail under magnification. Because the difference between an ordinary cent and a multimillion-dollar treasure can be a fraction of a gram, a subtle doubling, or a faint metallic sheen that reveals the wrong composition, and that is what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because it transforms everyday objects into potential gateways to history and fortune. And even if the legendary $65,001,945 wheat penny has not yet been publicly revealed, the hunt itself keeps the numismatic community alive and passionate, encouraging education, preservation, and curiosity. And every time someone checks a jar of pennies or inherits a collection from a relative, there is a spark of hope that they might be holding something extraordinary, and that hope is grounded in reality, because history has proven again and again that rare coins often surface in the most unexpected places, and the 1945 wheat penny stands as a symbol of that possibility, reminding us that value is not always obvious at first glance, and that mistakes, errors, and imperfections can sometimes be the most valuable features of all. And as you continue your journey in coin collecting or simply enjoy learning about these incredible stories, remember that knowledge is the key that unlocks hidden value, because understanding what to look for, what matters, and why certain coins command astronomical prices can turn curiosity into opportunity. And the tale of the 1945 wheat penny worth $65 million is not just about money, it is about history, chance, and the enduring allure of discovery. And who knows, the next great coin story might begin with you noticing something unusual about a humble penny and deciding to take a closer look, because in the world of rare coins, even the smallest cent can carry the weight of millions, and the echoes of a world forever changed. Last 1951 wheat penny. A huge warm welcome to all the new viewers who are just discovering this incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious Lincoln wheat pennies ever talked about. A coin that most people would overlook in a jar of change, yet has sparked endless excitement, speculation, and dreams among collectors. The 1951 wheat penny. A humble 1-cent coin that under the right circumstances, because of rare errors, unusual mistakes, and extraordinary minting possibilities, has been rumored, imagined, and discussed as being worth up to $1 million. And whether you are a seasoned collector or someone who just enjoys the thrill of the hunt, this story will completely change how you look at every old penny you come across. Because the truth is that coins like the 1951 wheat penny sit at the crossroads of history, metallurgy, human error, and pure chance, and it is exactly that combination that turns a simple copper cent into something legendary. So let's take a journey back to 1951, a time when the United States Mint was operating under intense post-war pressure, producing massive quantities of coinage for a booming economy, and in that environment, mistakes were not just possible, they were inevitable, and those mistakes are exactly where massive value can be born. Because the standard 1951 wheat penny itself was minted in large numbers at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and in normal circulated condition, most examples are worth only a few cents to a few dollars, but hidden within those millions were rare anomalies that escaped quality control, and these anomalies are what collectors dream about, starting with minting errors that occurred during the planchet preparation stage, because before a coin is ever struck, the metal blank has to be cut, cleaned, and weighed. And during 1951, the mint was still refining its processes after the wartime changes in metal usage, which means that metal planchets were a real possibility, and a 1951 wheat penny struck on the wrong metal, such as a leftover steel planchet from 1943 or an experimental alloy blank, would instantly become one of the rarest error coins in existence. And such a piece would not just be rare, it would be historically significant, because it would prove that transitional materials were still present in the mint's workflow years after the war, and collectors place immense value on proof of those kinds of transitions. Then, there are the famous double die errors, which occur when the die that strikes the coin receives a misaligned second impression during its creation, resulting in visible doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features. And while the 1955 double die obverse is the most famous, there is constant speculation and ongoing discovery of minor and major double dies from other years, including 1951, and a dramatic, clearly visible double die 1951 wheat penny, especially one showing strong separation in the date and the word liberty or in God we trust, would immediately be considered a major numismatic event because it would combine rarity, visual appeal, and strong collector demand, pushing its value into extraordinary territory, and when you factor in condition, the value skyrockets even more. Because a high-grade mint state example with blazing original red color and no signs of circulation could theoretically command prices that seem unbelievable to the average person, then we move into the world of striking errors, which is where things get even more exciting, because striking errors are often one of a kind or extremely limited, and they include off-center strikes, broad strikes, capped dies, die breaks, and retained cuds, and a 1951 wheat penny struck dramatically off-center while still showing a full date and mint mark would be highly desirable. But even more valuable would be a coin struck multiple times, such as a double struck or triple struck example, especially if the strikes are misaligned and clearly visible, because such errors tell a story of chaos inside the minting press, and collectors are willing to pay enormous sums for coins that visually demonstrate that story. And then there are die cap errors, where a coin becomes stuck to the die and continues to strike other blanks, creating a bottle cap-like shape and a fully developed 1951 wheat penny die cap with readable details would be an absolute showpiece, the kind of coin that museums and elite collectors would compete for, and competition is what drives prices to incredible levels. Then we have the mysterious world of missing elements, such as missing mint marks or missing design details, and while some missing mint marks are not errors due to how dies were made, certain anomalies where parts of the design are genuinely absent due to grease-filled dies or damaged. Dies can still be highly valuable, especially if the absence is dramatic and clearly visible, and a 1951 penny with a major grease strike that removes large portions of the lettering or Lincoln's portrait while leaving other areas sharp creates a surreal appearance that collectors find irresistible, because it challenges the expectation of what a coin should look like. Then, there are wrong planchet thickness errors, where a coin is struck on a planchet that is too thin or too thick, resulting in a coin that weighs significantly more or less than it should, and weight anomalies are often one of the first signs that something special is going on. And if a 1951 wheat penny were discovered weighing far outside the normal tolerance and authenticated by a major grading service, the excitement around such a find could push its value into 6 or even 7 figures depending on uniqueness and demand. And authentication is a crucial part of this story, because for a coin to reach a $1 million valuation, it must be verified, graded, and encapsulated by a respected third-party grading service, which gives buyers confidence that the error is genuine and not the result of post-mint damage. And once a coin is authenticated, it enters the global marketplace, where wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions compete for ownership, and that competition is fueled by stories, rarity, and the dream of owning something that almost no one else can, and the 1951 wheat penny has all the ingredients for that dream, because it sits in a period of high production, transitional technology, and evolving quality control, making it fertile ground for rare errors. And beyond physical minting mistakes, there is also the possibility of proof, like strikes or special presentation pieces that were never officially documented, because during that era, the mint sometimes produced coins with unusually sharp strikes or polished dies for internal testing or presentation. And if a 1951 wheat penny surface with proof-like surfaces, squared rims, and extraordinary detail, yet lacked official proof designation, it would spark intense debate and interest, because undocumented special strikes are among the most mysterious and valuable coins in existence, and condition plays an enormous role here as well, because a coin that has survived for over 70 years in pristine condition without being cleaned, damaged, or circulated is already rare, and when you combine pristine condition with a dramatic error, the value multiplies exponentially. And this is where the $1 million figure becomes imaginable rather than absurd, because history has shown that truly unique or near unique coins can and do sell for astonishing sums. And while not every 1951 wheat penny will be worth big money, the possibility that one exists with the right combination of errors, condition, and story is what keeps collectors searching through rolls, jars, and old collections. And this hunt is not just about money, it is about discovery, about holding a piece of history that slipped through the cracks of a massive industrial process and survived against the odds. And the 1951 wheat penny also benefits from the iconic design itself, because the Lincoln cent is one of the most beloved and widely collected coins in the world. And the wheat reverse in particular evokes nostalgia and a sense of classic American craftsmanship, which adds emotional value on top of monetary value. And emotional value is a powerful driver in high-end collecting, because people are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for objects that resonate with them on a deeper level. And when you imagine a collector who has spent decades assembling a complete set of Lincoln cents, the opportunity to own a legendary era from 1951 could be the crowning achievement of their collection. And that desire can lead to bidding wars at auction, where prices climb far beyond initial estimates, and auctions are where million-dollar coins are born, because all it takes is two determined bidders who understand the rarity and significance of a piece, and suddenly history is made. And another layer to consider is the role of storytelling and publicity, because once a rare coin is discovered and publicized, its fame grows, and fame adds value, because more collectors become aware of it and want to be part of its story. And a 1951 wheat penny with a dramatic error that captures media attention could become one of those legendary coins that everyone talks about, further cementing its place in numismatic history. And this is why even today, collectors and everyday people alike continue to check their change, because the next great discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer or inherited collection. And the idea that a single penny could change someone's life forever is incredibly powerful. And it keeps the hobby alive and thriving. And while the odds are long, they are not zero. And history has proven time and again that extraordinary coins are often found by ordinary people who simply took the time to look closely. And that is the true magic of the 1951 wheat penny story, because it reminds us that value is not always obvious, that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that history sometimes hides its greatest treasures in the smallest and most unexpected places. So the next time you come across an old wheat penny dated 1951, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Examine it carefully, weigh it, study the details, because you never know, you could be holding a rare error that connects you directly to the fascinating world of minting mishaps, collector passion, and the incredible possibility of a $1 million penny. And that possibility is exactly why we love coins, why we tell these stories, and why we keep searching, because every coin has a story. But only a few have the power to change history and lives forever.